Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, One Piece chapter 1081 is out. If you guys haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. We're just stringing along, just back-to-back incredibly epic chapters. I gotta admit though, this chapter was pretty hyped up beforehand, before the spoilers even dropped, and was this as good as last chapter? I don't think so. Is that me getting a little bit greedy? Probably. But of course, that is just my opinion. But the main difference really is I didn't feel too many emotional beats in this chapter. That's kind of what I look for. Is like, does it punch me in the gut, right? I think that it could have maybe, but it's more interesting than it is like powerful. Also, is it just me or did the chapter feel kind of short? Like you start reading it and then suddenly it's over. I didn't count the pages, but I kind of had that feeling. This sounds like I dislike the chapter. Okay, let me dissuade you of that notion, alright? I think that Aokiji right now is one of the most intriguing characters in all of One Piece in terms of what they may potentially do as we spiral to the endgame. If you guys have been keeping up, and I don't think that I'm alone in these thoughts, it just seems absurdly likely that Aokiji is Sword. The reasons for this is, number one, I think Garp is a member of Sword. Koby suddenly becomes a member of Sword. He's Garp's protege. Garp, as he's going to rescue Koby, recruits other members of Sword. It just seems like Garp is in Sword. He may not be, but it certainly have that impression. And if it's revealed at some point in time, I'll be like, yeah, duh, of course. So, Aokiji was kind of the protege before Koby, and Aokiji brought that up in the chapter. So, if we have this like, Garp is the leader of Sword, or the most hyped up member of Sword, and maybe influences others to sort of join him because the Marines have some duties that they can't really perform well while being technical members, then it stands that Aokiji could be as well. All of his actions, Aokiji we're talking about here, since he didn't acquire the Fleet Admiral position, I mean, it just can't be that he's just loyal to Blackbeard. We've said that from the very beginning. A lot of splaining would be necessary in order to convince me that Aokiji actually thinks highly of Blackbeard. But a low-key realization that I had is that Aokiji doesn't actually have to like Blackbeard to still be a crew member. A strange thing, and I think this is true, I think we have a kind of a biased view of what being on a pirate crew is like. Recency bias, following the Straw Hats, those sorts of dynamics, they're friends. It's not always the case. Think about Mr. 2 Bon Clay as a member of Crocodile's pirate crew. Or even more recently, Cross Guild has kind of become a pirate crew, in my opinion. It's a very strange one, so you shouldn't look at it in too much detail, but certainly it's a pirate crew. It's questionable who the leader is, but they still do things together. Now, of course, when the seeds were planted that there might be a connection between Aokiji and Blackbeard, I don't think that we knew about Sword at that time, but since then, Oda started to dig into this like alternate reality for the Marines, and it just really clicks that Aokiji could be Sword, and sees what he's able to do as a Marine Admiral as not enough. He may have already been a member of Sword, he may have joined them, it doesn't really matter. He took that next step that you can't make. He joined Blackbeard, severing all of his remaining ties with the Marines because there's something that he needs to do. I'm gonna full on embrace the underworld so that I can play the hero the way that I think that I need to. In my opinion, this adds up with the character that we know right now, the one that spared Luffy because of honor to Garp, spared Nico Robin on multiple occasions, including Saul recently. It was revealed, Aokiji is just straight up a good dude, right? Joining Blackbeard does not fit. But I brought all this up for a reason, and that reason is this chapter really inspires me to try and create some pathway that would allow for Aokiji to be a member of the Blackbeard Pirates in full, like in honesty. He's actually a member of the Blackbeard Pirates, and any other connection that he has right now is not really important. And I understand that doesn't make sense to anyone, but it's just so obvious to me that he is Sword. It would almost be a bigger shock if what we see is actually the truth. Partly I'm inspired to speculate this because I think that it would be prudent for Oda to introduce some sort of red herring at the very least. Like, look, maybe he's a member of Sword and this is his secret justice and he's working with the Marines the whole time. He's going to stab Blackbeard in the back, and that's the truth. But I think that it would be very prudent for Oda to create an alternate explanation. Something to at least get people off the trail, to make them doubt what it is that they're thinking right now. I think that has a place, even if we go back to what we thought from the first. And this is something that I speculate numerous occasions anyway. It's a technique that Oda uses commonly, where the initial idea is actually the right one, and then we spend 100 chapters or 200 chapters trying to mislead you, and then we get back to it. That Oda does that. The other thing is that in the chapter, the way that Aokiji joined the Blackbeard Pirates was incredibly smooth. You know, I wasn't actually expecting to see that. That was really surprising. And seeing the Blackbeard Pirates and Aokiji from this lens, interesting is the right word, I guess. You know, it's just like, wow, this is really cool. But it really didn't feel like Aokiji went out of his way to join Blackbeard, just how it went. It seemed like the Blackbeard Pirates stumbled upon him. Now, of course, Oda can write this in any direction that he wants to. I'm just saying that it felt so smooth that it's like, I almost want to believe that Aokiji decided in this moment something important about himself and what he wanted. And maybe he feels like he can accomplish that with Blackbeard. But as I was going down this rabbit hole, there's really just one thought more than any other that clicked for me. As if Oda is going to make Aokiji a true member of the Blackbeard Pirates, and or it, wants to create a red herring so that we're not 100% certain that he's part of Sword, what he really needs to lean on is Rox D. Xebec. We know the Blackbeard ship is called the Saber of Xebec. There's some connection between Blackbeard and Xebec. Maybe he's his idol, his hero, maybe a bit of Xebec's soul is in him. It doesn't really matter. I think that Blackbeard carries Xebec's energy, and ultimately their goals are going to be the same, to become the king of the world. But one important thing to notice with Xebec is he had a very interesting pirate crew, diverse. And the main character I want to highlight here, there's probably others as well. Whitebeard was a member of Xebec's crew, and we know Whitebeard fairly well from when he was younger until he got older. And just like we would say about Aokiji, you'd say Whitebeard is a good dude. But he was also a pirate on Xebec's crew. Look, I have mad respect for Blackbeard, and I'm incredibly excited to see what he has to offer to the story, especially like as an endgame villain or just before, or however it works out. I really love Blackbeard. But you just gotta admit, right? Xebec is just straight up cooler than Blackbeard, and a big reason for this is the crew that he had. Like, we get to meet all of these characters essentially in the present timeline. Big Mom, Kaido, Whitebeard, Shocky, Miss Bakken, Shiki, whoever, right? Like, that pirate crew is just insane. Not just because of what we know they ultimately accomplished after his death, but also because he had characters like Whitebeard on his crew. And it tells you something about Xebec, that he would be able to lure Whitebeard in with some sort of great promise about, the kind of world that he is going to create when he takes over, or who he's going to take down, whatever it is that drew Whitebeard in. It hasn't been explained yet, but you just know that from Whitebeard's past, he probably did not have a favorable view of the government or the Celestial Dragons. The taxes weighed heavy on the island that he was from. Did he just want to take down the government and see Xebec as a means to do that? I think so, but he felt comfortable enough to do it. And we also know as well that Xebec's crew did not get along. There was definitely some issues because of clashing personalities. So it would definitely, in my opinion, raise Blackbeard up substantially with the simple fact, or the simple idea, that Aokiji is actually a crew member and actually needs Blackbeard to accomplish his dreams in the same way that every Straw Hat needs Luffy to do the same. Right now, we can think of the majority of the Titanic 10 captains as essentially being evil dudes. Like, look, they like killing people and bloodshed and stealing stuff, and they're not peace main pirates. But with someone like Whitebeard, right, it's just different. And with someone like Aokiji, it's just different. I think that it's easy to believe that if Aokiji has decided that the world government is rotten, based on his real experiences as a Marine, which is totally justifiable, then you could ask the question of why doesn't he join the Revolutionary Army? That's their stated goal. Why doesn't he join a pirate crew that he would like more, like, for instance, the Straw Hats? Why is Blackbeard the answer? And so my short answer here, assuming that this is true, is that maybe Oda hammers in that Blackbeard is a foil to Luffy and the Straw Hats, that essentially, just like the Straw Hats, the individual dreams of the crew members matters. So it's not like the Marines. If you think about the Marines, it's the Marines' directive. Whoever leads them is the one whose dreams is being fulfilled, whether it be the Celestial Dragons or the Gorosei or Inu or Akainu as Fleet Admiral, right? Being part of the Marines, your dream becomes the dreams of the Marines. Essentially, within the organization, you have less freedom. And I think the same is actually true of the Revolutionary Army. So to me, this is what is going to make Luffy and Blackbeard distinct. The dark and light version of the same thing. Every member of the crew has their own very distinct dream that they're looking to fulfill and utilize the captain's leadership in order to fulfill them. And so for Aokiji to choose Blackbeard, I know he didn't really have the choice to join the Strats, but to stomach it, right, there has to be a dark side of him, something that he's looking to accomplish and essentially accepting whatever it will cost to accomplish it, whatever that might be. And it's just a speculation to throw out into the ether. I don't know that if this is going to be very persuasive, but there were some things that Aokiji said about Robin fears that he might have had that seemed like they were genuine expressions of himself. Essentially, Aokiji really does believe that Nico Robin is dangerous even as a child. And so he spared her because of Saul, but that lingering doubt remains. And so what is there to be afraid of Robin? Well, she can read the poneglyphs, therefore get access to the ancient weapons. So if you're looking for a rationalization of why Aokiji would join Blackbeard and how this isn't a move affiliated with Sword or the Marines at all, it's maybe because Aokiji is frustrated that the government doesn't destroy the poneglyphs, or even destroy the One Piece. But so the key thing that I've done here with this particular explanation is it makes it so that Aokiji has to stay a member of the Blackbeard Pirates because that's his ticket to, for instance, Laugh Tale. He needs Blackbeard in order to fulfill his dream. So how far is he willing to go? So if you guys can't tell, I'm a bit on the fence because I think that it's incredibly likely that Aokiji is Sword. At the same time, it seems a little bit too obvious and it intrigues me, this possibility that he needs Blackbeard. It makes this conflict here with Garp so much more interesting. Just the possibility of it. It doesn't even have to be true. Just believing it could be true changes how I might read the fight. To be honest with you, pretty much the most shocking thing that Oda could do right now is have Aokiji defeat Garp. Do I think that that's going to happen? No, I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm just saying, like, that would be a pretty big doom moment if we're all just absolutely sure that Aokiji is Sword, and if he is Sword, Aokiji's going to throw the fight. I think that's probably what the majority of people think is going to happen. He's going to try and make it look legit, and we might get a really cool fight out of it. But ultimately, if Aokiji loses, most are going to believe he threw the fight. But the quickest way to make people lose their minds is have Aokiji win, and then there's some consequence for Garp for this, the most obvious of which being death. Now, do I think Aokiji has the balls, the stones to kill his mentor figure and still be a decent human being, even if he's working for Blackbeard? I don't know about that one. But yeah, just things that I'm thinking about. I do think it would be insanely cool if Aokiji tries to defend himself, or gives us some nuggets or some hints as to, to Garp explaining himself, and what his goals are, and the faults of the Marines, or anything like that. Even if it's just a farce, man, I really, really hope that we go there, and I think that we will. I think a lot of people hyped up that Aokiji was just smashed by Garp in this chapter, and it's not even close. Their relative strengths, I don't know about that one. It seems like we have a lot more fight left, and that's not including the rest of the Blackbeard pirates that are here, the other Titanic 10 captains. So this has become a pretty big deal. Unfortunately, my dreams of the last chapter that Garp was just going to get in, get Kobe, and then run away, those dreams are pretty much destroyed at this point in time. Like, a real fight will happen. And it seems to continue the trend that Oda's been digging into, parallel with Egghead, of these other important fights taking place, not where the Strats are currently. We got Kid, and we left off with his fate undetermined, and in this chapter we got the conclusion to Law's fight with Blackbeard, and Law lost. A lot of people really wanted Law to somehow win, and I hope out there that you only thought this as like a meme idea, or Law just did something tricky to run away, not that he would actually defeat Blackbeard in a fight. I'm so glad that that didn't happen. At the same time, we're left at a very interesting place for Law now. Obviously, he's going to survive. Obviously. He is alive. Beppo going Sulong in order to save his captain. It's kind of convenient, I would say, that they had this entire fight, and then Beppo just suddenly has some sort of medicine that Chopper created that allowed him to transform into Sulong, just so that they could have one moment and then escape. It's like, dude, wouldn't you have used that at some point during the actual fight itself? It's a little convenient. I think it's also a little convenient that the entire fight took place, and then at the end, Oda contrived a way of Law to escape alive. But it is what it is, because I think it's necessary. Because first off, Blackbeard had to win, barring just some joke and second, Law had to survive. So writing that, figure that one out, okay? Puzzle yourself out how you're gonna manage to do that. But yeah, I would say that more than anything, I was sort of disappointed by this, and it's not because anything that happened was crazy or I didn't understand it or anything like that. It's just, I wish that we got more from the battle itself, more story implications. To me, it seems clear that the entire point of having Law fight Blackbeard is, one, the reputation gains for Blackbeard. It power scales him in a sense. You see, okay, look, clearly, you know, he's on another level than any of the Supernovas, Luffy's contemporaries. Not that I thought that they were anywhere close to Luffy or the Straw Hats themselves, but, you know, we've established this. This is another feat to go in the Blackbeard belt. I think probably, I'm not sure that this was explicit, but I think probably Blackbeard took Law's rubbings of road poneglyphs just so that we don't have to have Blackbeard visit other places, just the same as Shanks. Blackbeard is acquiring the poneglyphs by stealing them and not actually discovering them by adventure. And that's it. That was the point of the fight. In every other respect, I kind of feel like Oda pulled punches here because he didn't want the fight to really happen for any other reason. It didn't have anything else to do with it. Maybe this is a hot take, but as of this moment right now, I like the Kid one a lot more. And it's basically because I think that there's a lot of character stuff potentially there in Kid losing to Shanks, his state of mind, just who he is as a person, his unbreakable spirit. That's really interesting. It's cool to me. At the same time, Oda was able to demonstrate Shanks in a much more visceral manner. His crew, all of that was incredibly epic as well. With Law, you just kind of know that Law's going to take his lumps, but otherwise is a very pragmatic individual. He's going to assume that his crew is going to survive, he's going to pick himself back up, and otherwise you don't really think anything is going to change. So I guess I just kind of think it's vanilla. That's essentially my opinion. Cool fight, I guess fan service for people who wanted to see that matchup, but otherwise nothing really spectacular occurred. As a side note, we're kind of taken for granted here, but I think the fact that it's very obvious that Law is defeated and will survive makes it incredibly likely that Kid is also alive. So I do think we will get Kid in Elbaf. I really, really do, and it would be such a shame. It would be a troll-worthy moment if Oda's just like, nah, Kid, you're done. Okay, you're dead now. No more of you. But Law's cool. All right, you can see the end game. So a lot of people telling me, and told me from the day I posted the video, 10 things I'm looking forward to in Elbaf. I put Kid on that list. Character stuff related to Kid. Told me I took an L after Kid died. Look, I really think that Kid has something left to give to the story. And if he doesn't and he's just offed, it's just criminal. It is what it is. But anyway, to go backwards, we spent part of this video essentially arguing that maybe Aokiji is actually a member of Blackbeard's crew in a more realistic sense. And even if it's not the case, Oda will at least plant the red herring so that it would be reasonable to speculate. You guys better know my eyes light up when I see potential for a foil. And we have that here. Because with Aokiji being a legit member of the Blackbeard Pirates, and also a former Marine, there's another interesting Marine that's brought up in this chapter, Tashigi. Tashigi obviously is subordinate of Smoker, and Oda went out of his way to shoehorn in the explanation that they're not members of Sword. Tashigi is not a member of Sword, therefore probably Smoker is not either. And so there's been a long-running theory that Smoker might join the Straw Hats. Certainly I think that Smoker has something to give to the story as well. Basically, as a Marine, I think that he is going to become a pirate. Not necessarily a Straw Hat pirate, but a pirate in general. You gotta admit that it's a really cool open possibility. We've seen former Marines who became pirates, but we never actually experienced the journey in the story. So with Smoker, you could have, like, that's the whole point of the Smoker arc. As we progress in the story, he follows the Strat, see everything that they do, everything that they're able to accomplish, all the lives that they save. They're basically heroes, right? At some point, Smoker could realize, hey, as somebody who believes in justice, I think pirates are justice, if done in the right way. Then you give Smoker a fancy moniker like Free Justice. Essentially, Smoker becomes a peace main pirate, a pirate who fights bad pirates. Anyway, these have been my thoughts for a while now, but I don't want to dismiss, again, the popular theory basically got a huge run, I think 2013, 2014, something like that, and some people still believe it, including Morge and Obek did back in the day. Smoker joins the Stride Pirates. I think he's going to be a pirate. I don't think that he's going to join the Stride Pirates, but with Aokiji potentially doing that, just as a concept, then it would be very fitting if the Strides got their own former Marine to sort of counter Aokiji. Either way, I still think that there's something here to discuss about Smoker. Mainly, it seems likely, because Tashigi is not Sword, that Smoker is not Sword either. But you have to admit, Smoker has acted in a very Sword-like way from the start of the journey. He seems to be almost rogue, like he's chosen Striat Luffy as his target, and doesn't matter what else is occurring, he's sort of stayed on that path. But it could be important that he is doing this and he is not Sword. Remember, the whole concept of Sword is that you're not technically Marine, so if you ever cross that line, the Marines can disown you. That's the whole point of it. So if Smoker acts in a Sword-like way but is not a member of Sword, the Marines don't have that same out for him. So I feel like that's something that only Smoker can do right now, of the characters that we care about. But if you can't tell, I basically just want Smoker to be important to the story. We spent so much time with him. He's been involved since the very beginning. It would frustrate me greatly if he just sort of fades away at the end. It doesn't do anything of any consequence. It's just there. So I'm just looking for that pathway, and I really hope that if it's not this, it's something else. But yeah, there's a few more things to talk about from this chapter. Let's actually start with the color spread at the very beginning. Just a weird potential typo. It may not be, but if you look at the spread, I'm not going to show it on the screen, but you can see that Sanji is reading a book, and on the book it does not say cooking, although it should say cooking, right? It says C-O-C-K-ing, cocking. Oda may simply not know how to spell cooking in English, but it could also be foreshadowing. I think it's interesting, in the community we refer to Conqueror's Haki as Color of Conquerors, or COC. So you could potentially read this as COC, King, as if Sanji is going to become a conqueror, and this is foreshadowing of it. I think it's doubly evidenced by the fact that the only Straw Hat on the cover page that is awake is Sanji. Everyone else is sleeping. We know Conqueror's Haki puts people to sleep. Oda is known to put very small, sometimes inconsequential, sometimes big things in these color spreads that you can puzzle out potentially. Also, it leads to a lot of dead ends where people make up things that are there that aren't actually there, so bear that in mind. But I do think it's incredibly likely that Sanji becomes a conqueror, so it just, if I think that's going to happen, I'm going to come back to this and be like, look, this is foreshadowing. I thought it was funny at the very beginning of this chapter, obviously Garp just destroyed the island with his punch at the end of last chapter. We start this one with Garp again, he's like, damn, I've lost my touch, which is just incredible to me, that there's some level beyond this, because I think this is the most impressive punch that I've seen. That may not be true. It's really dang close, and if Garp is like, oh man, really lost it, good lord. But I think that you have to know that this information is important, just the same as Whitebeard. Garp is not as strong as he once was. Maybe he's not sick, he's just weaker. And so I do think that Garp is going to be defeated at some point in time, whether it's here or later, it's going to happen, and age is going to be a component of that. You already know it. But an interesting side discussion here is that it feels like, to me, confirmed, that Garp does not have a devil fruit. I know it's probably been mentioned on Fever cards, all sorts of external sources in One Piece. Maybe it was explicit and I missed it, I don't know. But now that we have him in a serious fight, it's like he doesn't have a devil fruit, right? So the reason he's so strong is Haki, and we see a bit of that in this chapter as well. Not to the level of Shanks, but Aokiji freezes him and he breaks it, and you know that's a Haki feat. So there's been a theory for a long time that Haki may potentially have caused Roger's sickness, and in general just wear at someone's lifespan and cause negative effects. But Garp really doesn't seem sick to me. He just seems old, and I think that potentially dispels that idea. We also get some more information about the man marked in flames, hyped up in recent chapters, and in this chapter we learned that Blackbeard pirates are also interested in the man marked by flame, and the going speculation is that this person possesses the Last Road poneglyph. I do really like the romantic way that Oda described it. It is said that a man can be found on a pitch black ship, and if anyone sails near, they end up swallowed by giant whirlpools. What's so great about this is it just feels like a pirate story, doesn't it? feels like the Flying Dutchman sort of lore of a powerful pirate with a ship that can't be found. And, it reminds me a little bit of Thriller Bark as well, the Florian Triangle. I think that the most popular speculation for the man marked by flames has been Jaguar de Saw. I could be wrong about that. Certainly, I think that it was far and away the best idea. But I think that the way that the man marked by flames is described in this chapter brings a little bit more hype from a combat perspective, especially the speculation about a devil fruit and all this magic things that are going on. I don't know, it kind of makes me think that it's not Saul, and I think that other people are experiencing this as well, which is why the idea of Skapar Gaban is coming up. And I just want to say this while we're here. I still think that it's Saul, and I think that'd be cool if the magic of his mystery is described as being technology related to the Library of O'Hara or the Ancient Kingdom. That would be amazing. That being said, if it is Skapar Gaban, that would make a ton of sense as well. Former Roger pirates have been pivotal pieces along the Grand Line, from Shanks finding Luffy and as he started the adventure, from Crocus waiting at the beginning of the Grand Line and offering clues and basically establishing the mystery of Laugh-Tale, and then Rayleigh waiting at Sabaody, the midpoint, to sort of protect the Strats in their adventure. One major Roger pirate who is not here is Skapar Gaban, the Roger Pirates number 3. And with the top tier Roger pirates being introduced sequentially, it's ominous that we haven't gotten a new Roger pirate since we've gotten to the New World. I've thought for a long time that he would be on Elbaf. I can't remember all the logic behind it, to be honest with you, it's been so long, but we do know that he used an axe as a weapon, and someone is literally chopping down Treasure Tree Adam, which I personally speculate is the tree that we see in Elbaf, the massive world tree, and he has an axe, and maybe he's the one who's chopping down the tree. Certainly whoever is doing it is incredibly powerful because Adam's wood is a hyped up thing. It is no easy task to, for instance, destroy the Straw Hat ship and the wood that it's made out of. So imagine what it takes to extract the bark from the tree. And I don't know, man, it just makes a ton of sense for a Roger pirate to be guarding this last road poneglyph. It just seems like something that would have occurred. Skapar Gaban could fade into obscurity while on Elbaf because it's closed off from the world government, and essentially be like Rayleigh. He's retired, performing some menial tasks to assist in people's journey across the Grand Line. Even Rayleigh, as he's coding ships, right? The whole point of that is to get more pirates to the New World. So that he's acting to assist the pirate world in a low-key way. This feels very similar to me. The one that Roger is waiting for is going to need an incredible ship made out of Adam's wood, so it makes sense for a former Rogers pirate to make sure that Adam's wood is available. But yeah, I just feel like bringing up Skapar. It seems like people are discussing it right now, and I just want to make it clear I like the theory. It's not what I believe as of this second, but it's something I think everyone should be thinking about. I do think that Skapar as a character is one that needs to show up, and again, we're running out of islands. But anyway, I found it intriguing that Shiryu speculates that the stone or the man marked by flames is affiliated with the government. He says, we know they're not all angels. It wouldn't be surprising if they kept one or two stones for themselves. It'd be a surefire way of preventing any pirate from ever claiming the One Piece. This is something that people in the community have speculated forever, and to have it actually verbalized in the story by a character is low-key hype. It's really cool. I don't know if Oda's actually going to go somewhere with it, or if this is just an acknowledgement of the possibility of it, or if the man marked by flames is really associated with the government. I mean, Saul was formerly, what about Skapar Gaban? We don't know essentially anything about him. But yeah, if you're looking for some straws to grasp at, some tinfoil idea to cling on here, if you want to break down Shiryu's speculation to its most simplest terms, it's that somebody may be hoarding a road poneglyph, hiding it, so that nobody can complete the journey, right? And it doesn't have to be the government, it could be anyone. We already know that the last road poneglyph that we are looking for was originally on Fishman Island. Somebody, over the last 20 years or so, took the poneglyph from Fishman Island and placed it somewhere else, right? Big Mom has a poneglyph since before Roger began his final journey. Kaido's road poneglyph was already in Wano. It was the Kozuki one. The Zou road poneglyph has always been the same and kept on Zou. So the Fishman Island one that we saw in a flashback has been moved. And so it is being safeguarded by someone. Someone doesn't want the journey to be completed, and we've already speculated that it seems likely to be a Roger pirate to have been the ones to do this, because they were the ones that found the poneglyphs originally, right? They would know where all of them are. So yeah, you could take Shiryu's comment a different way and then apply it to the Roger pirates, that Skapar Gaban is the one that is preventing any pirate from ever claiming the One Piece. But yeah, despite my criticisms here or there about the chapter, it was still incredible. We are riding such a monumental high right now. I'm really curious to see where we go from here. To be honest with you, I want some of this conversation to take place between Garp and Aokiji, but I hope it doesn't take up too much time because I'm ready to get back to the Straw Hats and whatever is going to go down on Egghead, the Gorosei, all of that stuff. I'm ready for it at this point. So I'm curious as to how Oda is going to pace that. But yeah, incredible chapter. Excited for the next one. As always, curious as to what you guys think, whether you know something from the chapter that I might have missed. Just share your thoughts. Remember to check out my book, The Booms. Volume 1 and Volume 2 are both out. Links in the description as well as pinned in the comments. And if you guys read it, go ahead and leave a review to let people know what you thought about it. Like the video, subscribe, click the bell to be notified, join the squad. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.